Hello everybody, welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm Sean's Mapping or the Sultanate Empire, and in today's video we are going to be continuing What If Civilization Started Over. Let's get into today's video. Alrighty, if you did not see the last episode, I suggest you go check the last episode out, as many things did happen in it, and I did announce a new layer that was basically put onto the map, or a new layer that I created for the series. And this layer could continue into the future. It could die out after certain points. Who knows? Nobody really does know, you know. But let me show you what layer I am talking about. And that layer is in fact this layer, otherwise known as the slavery layer. The dark gray countries show countries that legally allow slavery. The light gray countries show the countries that practice it but don't legally outlaw it or legally support it. And then the bright gray countries are countries that legally outlaw slavery. You know, that's the bright, like again, bright white gray legally outlaw slavery. The light gray practice slavery, but they don't outlaw it and they don't legally support it. The dark gray countries have laws that legally support slavery. Sorry, I no, sorry. Um, back into the video, and one of these countries will be changing in today's video. Well, not really a country, but a part of a country. As you see, Ender M, if you did not see the last video, I suggest you go check it out, recently went through a civil war or rebellion where multiple parts of his country wanted to become a slave state, or basically not state, but they wanted to like have and operate slaves. And so Ender made a deal with them. If they stopped the bloodshed, stopped the war, and instead of making the entire country be a slave country, because most of the people within said country did not want to have slaves, Ender decided to set up the Scandinavian Autonomous Region, which is a part of his country that is um, which is again a part of his country, but it's an autonomous region, which means like the leadership in that area are essentially like they can do their own things, they can operate and do their own things, but they are in fact like a autonomous region essentially. And basically they have slaves, they operate slaves, and this was the basically the middle ground that Ender found. Because also the fact being Ender was also trying to work on his current state, which was unifying with Germany. So he couldn't really be too worried about people that wanted to own slaves, and so he decided to take this one little hit, uh, to him, and that was basically to just give them what they wanted, which was they wanted to own slaves, and that's exactly what he did. He gave them exactly what they wanted, and he gave them the opportunity to own slaves, just like so. So now this part of his country is owning slaves, and he's still in the process of outlawing slavery within Germany. But he's just kind of leaving it as is for right now, since the unification is fairly young and weak. But we will actually be staying in this area for multiple different reasons. And one of those reasons is for the very first um like actual union that is to exist. And you may be wondering to yourselves, what kind of union is that? And well, that union is the union between the Yugoslavian countries and actually forming Yugoslavia, minus a couple bits and pieces. In a move led by Serbia, Bosnia, and also Kosovo. We'll just call them Kosovo, or not Kosovo. We'll call them Croatia, even though Croatia is more to the north and a bit longer. But basically, these countries right here end up uniting with Serbia, forming Yugoslavia. Let us go ahead and go to a separate region after this unification is done. Basically, after Paint.net wants to cooperate with me. Like, today, please, thank you. We now have a new country on the board, Yugoslavia. Now let us go ahead and jump over to a region that has not really seen much war in recent years, ever since the Great War of Africa between the Orange Team and the Rectangle Alliance. Let's go ahead and jump down there. Alrighty, here we are. Now you may be wondering, why are we down here? This area has maintained general peace ever since the collapse of the Orange Team. Well, that's because that peace is about to be shattered, as the Blue Team, which has become one of the new number one powers in the world, is going to be going through some things. Let's go ahead and look at what they will be going through right now. Alrighty, here's what we have happening. First things first, we have the Triangle Alliance, or the Diamond Alliance, sorry, coming back into existence. We also have all of these countries which were conquered in the after following the War of Africa, the Great War of Africa. All of these countries were conquered by the Blue Team or the Red Team. Now, you will notice that all of these countries just pop back up in rebellion against the Blue Team. And, well, two countries also just might have joined the Diamond or recreated the Diamond Alliance, as Tanzania is looking for revenge. And, well, so is the Light Blue Team and all of these countries. So they have just done this in a way to try and get back at the Red Team to make them fight on multiple fronts. But unfortunately for them, the Blue Team has some friends that don't like what Tanzania and the South Africans are doing. And those countries are two countries that are not currently in the alliance, but two countries that can join the alliance whenever needs be. And that's exactly what they're going to be doing. That country is, of course, first one is going to be this one right here that joins in. And of course, their old country ally that was up here that was taken over by the Orange Team and then liberated by the Arabian Empire and assimilated into the Arabian Empire. These two countries kind of join along with this third country right here, who was already in the alliance after, well, following the war. Now, because of these three countries being involved in the war, Tanzania has to now focus in on dealing with these three countries up here, as Tanzania and South Africa did declare war with the rebellions popping up. So we are going to go ahead and look at that war. First things first, the southern forces down here will be pushed back by the blue team, as the blue team had troops down here ready for any type of situation or war. If a war or rebellion was to occur, they expected it primarily from this country down here. So they had their forces ready and going. We also do see them begin to push into their puppet state in the north, just like so. And that is the two countries they begin pushing into. The others hold a defensive line. Well, they hold a defensive line on their other puppet state. But this country right down here is able to make some early land gains, capturing three primary major cities in his general vicinity and general area, using his rebel forces. Also, alongside South African forces, which were sent by ship. Only like 600 were sent there to help train. Like each country has 100. This country has more. 600 were sent. This country has. This one has 100, 100, 100. This country has 400. And, that's why they're able to make good pushes. This one, they hold a defensive line because, there's not that much help there. But we do see South Africa make some early gains in the war, as they always do, as they are always ready for war. And they do, in fact, begin to threaten the Red Team capital as they are only a couple miles away from it. And due to them being only a couple miles away from the Red Team capital, it is never a good thing. So the Red Team actually moves their capital for once from its well, its secondary historic area and where it's been for generations. Because its original historic area is controlled by their puppet state currently. They move down here, capturing these two major cities. Don't worry, they're major cities, not capitals. I just forgot to remove the capitals. And they're eventually able to take all like this. But unfortunately for the South Africans, they completely forgot that the red team has full control over Madagascar. And they quickly make an invasion right over here along the coast, looking to cut off the blue team forces. And eventually, they make it over to the border, and their troops begin to push in and essentially meet up with their troops that have occupied blue team territory and cut off the troops in the north from any support, which is never good. They also begin to push back the enemy forces, just like so, making some initial small minor land gains, taking back their two major cities, just like so. And this war is actually very short lived between the South Africans and the Tanzanians, as they realized that this wasn't a really smart idea. And eventually the blue team just opts to leave the war because a big portion of their military was just encircled up here. So the blue team leaves the war. Now, up here in Tanzania, well, Tanzania is actually doing a lot better. They're doing fairly well. With South Africa leaving the war, they're a little disappointed, but I mean, they are pushing hard against the pink team and the other two countries up here, and they're actually able to make heavy land gains against this country as they're able to essentially take all the way up to like right about here, with everything else being fairly minor and not really that important. But they're able to take to like right about here, capture this major city. Then they're able to take all of this. So, they're actually doing very, very freaking good right now. And I mean, they're even able to take certain parts of the this country up here. They're able to take like the northern half of it. So they're actually looking fairly well off right now in their war. But that's about to change, as the blue team may be fighting on multiple fronts against rebels, but the red team isn't. And South Africa just opted out of the war because they made a big mistake and they weren't really ready for this war. Now, that being, red team forces begin to come up to the Tanzanian border up here, and well, they begin to make invasions. Now, you may be wondering what's happening on Madagascar. There is fighting over there, but it's more of a stalemate due to Madagascar's geography and the way it is, and also the fact that Madagascar is full of wild animals that don't really like people, primarily lions and a bunch of other like hyenas and whatnot. So it's very dangerous to be wandering out in the wilderness to attack a city or something at night or at any other time. So it's just kind of defensive lines. Now, also, I will say this, I don't know if you have heard this from me or not in previous videos, but basically, all three of my series that I currently have will be tied in together. They all have a purpose in my grand scheme of things, and all of them are connected some way, somehow. Now, with the Blues team eventually reaching the right about here and threatening Tanzania's capital, eventually Tanzania will opt out of the war, and well, I mean, we can assume what's going to happen to the rebellions. They're all going to be crushed sooner or later. So let's go ahead and look at the peace treaty of this war. And alrighty, we are back here. We have the new borders following the war, with all of the rebels being reassimilated into the blue team, and also Tanzania losing their Madagascan colony, and even more land and being forced to move their capital. The red team has moved their capital. South Africa has once again lost even more land. Alrighty, let's look at some other news. And what other news is that? Well, we have some more countries colonizing. And what country is that? Well, that is Portugal. The Portuguese country that popped out of the brown team during the Great War of Europe decided, why don't we send some boats out? And that is exactly what they did. Well, I mean, all of these countries sent boats out, but they are the one that got the furthest. So all of these countries along the south, they were like, colonization. Well, just exploration in general, looking for resources. Yay. Also, primarily due to the fact that most of the Orange Team countries actually have um, like, they all use the same, like, economy, or, like, the same currency, so they actually are working fairly well together. Anyways, we see the Portuguese kind of sending their ship down like this, gets lost a little bit. It keeps going, and then eventually it come across some islands. It's like, ooh, islands. Come across some more islands. Like, ooh, islands. And they kind of explore this area, up like this, kind of just around and about. They don't really explore down there. They kind of focus on just staying in the water, not going too far, as they realize it's very, very, very freaking forested down there. So they just keep exploring this area, and eventually they do stop exploring. And instead, they decide to go north, because when they were coming, the colonies of the Welsh and the Scots were north of them. So they decide to go up, they find some more islands. They continue going north, find nothing. Continue going north, find more of nothing. Until eventually they continue, and they find something. They're like, ooh, wow. And as they look around more and more, they find even more islands, which makes them very, very happy. And they eventually discover the entirety of Florida. Hearing this, the Welsh do send some explorers down, and eventually they're able to connect up and realize that they're on one giant landmass. Well, they assume it's still an island. Like they think it's an island still. And well, the rest of this ocean will just get discovered. Just like so. So, we in fact have the Portuguese becoming a colonizer. Very good, very good, very good. As we will be seeing the Portuguese take over all of these islands right here. It's very ironic, huh? The Portuguese are once again claiming, like, Iberia is once again claiming the Caribbean. Very interesting. Very interesting. And in this case, Iberia stems from the same place. They're not that different. They're fairly similar. Um, we will also be seeing this big boy country right here claim all of these islands off of its coast. No, I did not want to give them the coastline of those islands. I want to give them the islands. There we go. They claim all of those islands right there. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today's video. I'm John's Mapping, or the Sultanate Empire. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, go down beneath the video, hit the like button. If you didn't, that's okay. You can hit the dislike button. It's right there next to the like button. If you enjoy my content and enjoy what I do, I suggest you hit the subscribe button and then hit that bell notification icon right next to the subscribe button to get notified of the next time I upload or anytime a new video is posted to my channel. I'm Sean's Mapping, or the Sultanate Empire. I hope you beautiful ladies and gentlemen enjoy the rest of your day or night, wherever you may be, wherever you may live, and I'll see y'all in the next video. See ya!